This episode of the RnR podcast is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Newark Auto Body. You know, with winter weather and slick road conditions comes black ice and accidents, things we don't want to deal with. And if you've been in an accident and your car needs a little TLC, we're letting you know you need to look no further than Newark Auto Body and Zanesville Auto Body. They're safe, they're reliable, collision repairs is their business, and they do it like no other. Newark Auto Body and Zanesville Auto Body is a local, family-run, and veteran-owned business. It serves Newark, Zanesville, and the surrounding areas. And guess what? They work with all insurance providers to make your experience hassle-free, and you know you can't beat that. And check this out. If you're a U.S. military veteran, even better. Ask about their special discounts for vets right at the shop, and they'll be happy to help you. Now, look, we know it can be very hard to find a trustworthy car mechanic. However, we've got the answer for you because the people over at Newark Auto Body and Zanesville Auto Body, they've got you covered in every way possible. They care for you first, and they make sure they keep you safe and back on the road. Do a favor for us. Visit them today at autobodyofnewark.com and autobodyofzanesville.com. I'm going to give you that again. At autobodyofnewark.com and autobodyofzanesville.com, and they'll get your repair started right away. Our one-car gold-class team of skilled collision repair technicians will make your vehicle like new again. No doubt about it. We'll add links in our show notes and tell them that Press Play sent you.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi Roda podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out to our fantabulous producer, Cordts, making sure all of you get this out there on what we like to call the podcatosphere. So Cordts, Happy New Year to you, and thank you for everything you do for RnR. Michael Reghi, we are down to 2 teams in college football and 4 teams in the National Football League, and we're going to preview those 3 games that are left to determine champions at the collegiate level and the NFL level. So why don't we start with what's happening on Monday night in Atlanta? It is the, as I like to call them, the Crying Irish of Notre Dame taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes. And Michael, you talk about 2 brands that are as big as they get in college football. A lot of eyes going to be on the TV sets on Monday night watching Notre Dame against Ohio State.
Yeah, there really are, Kenny, and let me join you in thanking our wonderful producer, Cordts, for the exceptional job he does. Appreciate all you do, man. Couldn't do it without you. And Ken, yes, I mean, you know, I like the intrigue of Marcus Freeman, the former Ohio State linebacker in his playing days, now as the head coach of Notre Dame. And, you know, I just, of course, when you look at the roster and you look at those that are the main contributors, I think most of the check marks are going to go on the side of the Ohio State Buckeyes. And yet I got to tell you, I didn't think that Notre Dame would win last week, right, to get here, and that they did. So they're going to have, if not a Herculean performance, a performance that puts them in a tremendous position. Kenny, I think, obviously, you know, you kind of say it all the times in games like this, but for Notre Dame to win, I think they're going to have to get the lead, get out early, and establish themselves and maybe make Ohio State play catch up a little bit. I'm not sure that they're capable of doing that, but we're going to find out. And I just hope that from an Ohio State perspective, I hope that Ryan Day and his coaching staff are in with a mindset of the way they've come through this playoff and not revert back to how they usually coach in their major rivalry game against Michigan, because that, to me, might be the thing that if they did that, that might be the thing that keeps Notre Dame around and in it with a chance to win.
Yeah, Michael, I look at this on paper. Ohio State's the better team. I mean, you just I'll throw the names out at you. Jeremiah Smith, freshman wide receiver, first team All American. Donovan Jackson, left guard, now playing left tackle, first team All American. The two-headed monster that is Trevion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins, thunder and lightning in the backfield, outstanding, right? You go to defense, Captain Jack Sawyer, second team All-American. JT Tuamaloa, Cody Simon. This team is loaded as they brought back 9 of 11 starters on defense, went into the NIL transfer portal, if you will, brought in Caleb Downs to add to that defense. He's an All-American, right? So on paper, this team is better than Notre Dame. But as you pointed out, on paper, they were better than Michigan, and they lost at home 13-10. And I look at this game from this standpoint. And we're going to talk about the NFL playoffs a little later. The only way I think Notre Dame beats Ohio State is if Ohio State and Will Howard go Detroit Lions and the way that Jared Goff and the Lions did in their playoff game, in their playoff loss to Washington. I can't see Ohio State, if the turnover battle is even, if Ohio State doesn't turn the football over, I don't think Notre Dame can score enough to beat Ohio State. So I think the only way Ohio State loses is if they beat themselves, because on paper, they should win this by 10 or 14 points.
Yeah, that would line up, and I'm with you on that. And you gave an apt description, though, that we just saw from less than 24 hours ago when Jared Goff just absolutely was awful. I'm sorry. The man has done a terrific job as a Lions quarterback, and I was one. That's my hometown. That's my hometown football team. I always felt Matthew Stafford's a better quarterback than Jared Goff, but they made the move. Stafford wanted a chance to go elsewhere to win a championship, and Goff has been very, very good, Kenny, for the Lions. Yeah. With that having been said, I used last night as Exhibit A as to why, though, I don't know if Jared Goff has it to be able to take the Detroit Lions, which, again, top team in the NFL, right? I don't know if he has that it factor, that major quality that I like to see in my quarterbacks when things start to unravel. Do you have what it takes to get the football team back into the type of team you believe they are, which had the best record in the NFL? He showed that last night. He was bad, real bad.
And that's the only way I think Notre Dame has a chance, is if Will Howard impersonates Jared Goff or Sam Darnold or Lamar Jackson. Hey, let's put it out there with Lamar today. Horrible interception, horrible fumble. They lose 27-25 to the Bills, and we're going to break this down again a little bit later. But the reason I'm bringing it up now, Michael, that's the way. Bills win 27-25. Baltimore, 3 turnovers. Buffalo, none. Commanders win 45-31 over the Lions. Detroit, 5 turnovers, and the Commanders, 0. Eagles beat the Rams 28-22. Rams, 2 turnovers. Eagles, 0. I think Ohio State is a much better football team, and the only way, and I'll repeat myself, the only way they lose is if they go 4 turnovers to none, 3 turnovers to none. Will Howard has a horrible game. Will Howard needs to check his ego at the door, Michael. He doesn't have to try and be the savior, right? He doesn't have to try and win it himself. He's got so many weapons from Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith, Tate. You've got G. Scott, the tight end, the two-headed monster. It is the running game. That offensive line is playing better. Yeah, they're going to face a good defense in Notre Dame, but Will Howard just needs to go out and distribute the football, manage the game, and realize this. It's okay to punt with that defense that you have. It's okay to not score on every possession. It's okay that if they double team Jeremiah Smith, to throw one into the ground and live to play another down as opposed to turning it over. If he has that mindset, a team first mindset, instead of trying to play hero ball, then again, I don't think Ohio State loses, but it all comes down to whether or not he can control his emotions and understand that whether it's a 17-7 game, a 31-14 14, whatever it is, you just want to win by 1 point, and you need to be the guy that doesn't lose the game.
You laid it out very aptly and correctly. I agree with you 1,000,000%. Now, my question to you is, how confident are you that that's the tack that Will Howard, is going to take into this football game and not try to go above and beyond what he's capable of? You 1,000,000% that he's going to do that?
No, absolutely not. I have
there
my
you go.
concerns.
There
Michael,
you go.
I do. I have my concerns because he's a senior, fifth-year senior. He's a leader. But, hey, man, I got to keep Jeremiah Smith happy. So I'm going to try and force one in there. Next thing you know, like at Penn State, maybe it's a pick six and it goes the other way. Then Notre Dame's got momentum in life. So they've all got to realize, and this is what I'm hoping, after getting their asses kicked by Michigan, it looks like they're a different team physically and mentally, right, Michael, that they've all checked their egos at the door because they hit rock bottom in that 13-10 home loss. I'm hoping that continues, that their heads haven't swelled up, to the point where they're like the Miami Hurricanes in 2002, who thought they were just going to show up against the Ohio State, and Ohio State punched them in the mouth early and often. As you said, for Notre Dame, they've got to play from in front like Ohio State did in that game, right? And hung around. So I'm hoping that the Buckeyes have grown. Everything they've said so far and the way they've played says this is the case, that they've grown from that loss and they have put the team first above all else. But I still have my doubts about Will Howard, whether that's fair or not based on how he's played in the playoffs, Michael. I don't know, but I still have some concerns about it. And I guess the only way I won't is if he goes out and plays well and they win the national championship, and I'll say I was wrong. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, sure. You'd like to be able to put those fears that you and Ohio State fans may have to rest. So, though, for me, you're a large fan of Ohio State. I admire the program, but I'm not a fan. Right. I'm not a fan. So I just look at them as one of the top teams in college football year after year. I respect that. I admire that, but I don't have that kind of fandom associated with it. So for you, because you do, how much do you think this means, though? Again, because I'm going to tell you tell me what you think, because again, you're the fan of them. Yeah, I got a little bit of a problem, not a problem, but I love now that they've lost to 4 in a row. Now all of a sudden the Michigan game doesn't mean jack doodle. And I kind of rebel against that, Kenny. Again, I'm not a fan, but what about all the Ohio State fans? Well, it's okay now. It's okay because we're going to play for a national. Is it really okay?
For me, it is.
Is it really okay?
For me, it is, because the goal in college football is to win the national championship. Yes, you want to win your rivalry game, but that isn't more important than the national championship. It may have been 50 years ago, but in today's world of college football, expanding to 12 teams that normally wouldn't have had a second or a third chance to play for a title, to me, I've always been about championship is the biggest thing. That's what you're trying. Like Mike Tomlin. I had another winning season in the regular. Who gives a shit? You didn't win a playoff game. You can't win a Super Bowl. I don't care if Mike Tomlin goes 40 years of never having a losing season in the regular season. If he only wins the one Super Bowl, then the other 39 years are wastes. So for me, it's about championships and titles. And if they can go out and win this national championship by going 4 wins in a row, first time in the playoff era of 12 teams, that will lessen the blow and ease the pain of that 13-10 loss to Michigan. And maybe it took that loss to get Ohio State refocused and to play their best football. Now, having said that, next year, do I want to lose to Michigan and win a national? No, I want to beat Michigan. That's the rival. But to me, it's not bigger than the national championship game. And I can't understand in today's day and age people who say, well, if you only win one game, it's the Michigan game. No, I want to win the national championship. That's more important than the Michigan game. I'll deal with Michigan on, November 29th next year in Ann Arbor. Right now, win the national championship Monday night in Atlanta, and the season is a success because you are at the top of the mountain. You achieved the ultimate goal.
Yeah, well, I don't have the fandom that you and the Ohio State fans do with it. Like I said, I respect what they are as a program. Always have, always will. But again, to me, you can't keep having this both ways, because Kenny, the day after the Michigan game, I mean, how much major amount of vitriol was there
Oh,
out there again?
absolutely.
Got to get rid of
Michael,
the head coach. Got to
I
get
was one of those people.
this is uncalled. I mean, this can't continue to happen.
Right.
All of a
I
sudden,
was
that
one of
changed
those
now?
people. I was one of those people saying if he doesn't win the national championship and they lose in the first round at home to Tennessee, he should be fired because that would have been 2 consecutive home losses to your rival for the 4th year in a row and a first round playoff loss at home. So I was one of those people saying, look, Ryan Day loses to Tennessee, he should be fired. But I left myself a little wiggle room, Michael. I did. I've learned, doing this for 40 years, never say never and, leave that window or that door open just a little bit. I said, but if he can go on and win 4 straight, well, he's saved his job and you can tack on a few more years because the ultimate is what? Being the last man standing, the last team standing with that confetti coming down in Atlanta and holding up that trophy as national champions. And guess what? They're 60 minutes away from doing that.
So if they were to happen to lose tomorrow night, what do you think the take is going to be on Ryan Day again? And now how much are we going to hear about again the continued losses to Michigan?
Yeah.
And now you didn't go win it all. So now what?
I think there will be blowback, Michael. Absolutely. Because they're the favorites going in, just like they were against Michigan, not by as many points. It was a 23-point spread, I think, predicted by Vegas in the Michigan game. This is 8.5 going into Monday night. So they're the favorites. And yeah, if they lose another big game, the ultimate game, right? Like he did a few years ago in the national championship to Alabama, like he did against Georgia, okay? And tack on those 4 losses to Michigan, yeah, absolutely there's going to be blowback, but he saved his job for at least another year, I think, by winning 3 playoff games should they lose tomorrow night. But if he does lose, I'm going to be one of those people saying, okay, well, how did they lose? Why did they lose? Was it a bad game plan like the Michigan game, right? Did the coaches not manage the clock well? But if it's a loss where they're moving up and down the field and the players are putting the football on the turf, and that's not something Ryan Day can control, then okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But he is in a better situation than he was when they lost to Michigan. But he needs to claim that championship, get the monkey off his back, and if he does, Michael, that buys him 3 to 5 more years of no matter what happens, he's hanging around and he's going to get a raise, at Ohio State for winning their 9th national championship.
Yeah, I get it, but to me, at some point, he's got to put an end because again, I'm saying this though, but I'm a college football fan that respects Ohio State, always admires Ohio State as part of the fabric of college football and one of the top programs in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Always. But again, to me, though, you can call me old school, whatever. He can't keep losing to Michigan. To me, you continue to do that. And like I said, I don't think that, win a national championship, fine. Fine.
But remember,
you don't win the national championship. You lose to Michigan again. You don't win the national championship. So now what? We say, well, it was a great year.
Remember, he did beat Michigan. It's not like he has never defeated Michigan.
Right. Well, yeah, the first time
he
tried.
He's not like Harbaugh who went 0-5
1-4 against Michigan.
Right, but I'm saying he has defeated them. He didn't do the Harbaugh route where he went 0-5, skipped a year because he didn't want to play him, and then finally won 3 in a row.
Don't say that. That's crap. But go ahead. That's a bunch of crap. Now you're talking like a fan, and that's crap.
Right.
I'm going to call you.
Well,
go ahead.
Hey, I'm just saying it the way I heard it, the way I saw it from people.
The way you heard it from Ohio State people, the way you heard it. But Go ahead. Go ahead.
So he does have 1 win against Michigan. All right. So it's not like he's 0 for Michigan. He's not 0 for 5 the way Harbaugh started. So if he goes and wins the national championship, then he has a win against Michigan and a national championship. Those are two of the goals as a head coach when you go to Ohio State.
5 years ago. Don't make off like he's lost 4 in a row.
Michael, Michigan is not bigger than the national championship.
Oh,
They're
really?
not.
I wouldn't know.
Michigan is not
The
bigger
way
than the
some
national
Ohio State
championship.
people talk about it, again, to me, that's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
I don't think that, again, you could continue. Like I said, the day after the Michigan game, again, the amount of vitriol that came out, and again, about wanting this guy gone, because, again, you better football team, no question about it. This is not a vintage Michigan football team this year. Couldn't win again at home. So, I mean, how long does this continue to go on? How long does it continue? Let's say he loses 2 of the next 3 to Michigan.
Does he have a national championship in there? If so, then you're going to get that leeway.
You're going to be okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
and here's the thing. College football is becoming the NFL.
Is after the losses to Michigan, stop all the damn vitriol then. Stop all the vitriol about the guy can't coach. We got to get rid of him. This is the worst thing that ever happened. Because, again, you're saying that the rivalry don't mean nothing anymore. Well,
I'm not saying that. It doesn't mean as much.
It's convenient when you lose either side to say it doesn't mean
as much. Because in years gone by, if you lost, you didn't have a chance to get to the playoffs or the national. Now you do, because they've expanded to 12. College football is becoming the NFL. So I think college football fans need to reshape their thinking of what's most important in college football. The rivalry games, the conference championship games don't mean as much anymore. They just don't. Winning the national championship is what matters most now. And so I'm changing the way I think about it.
We're in disagreement about that, but see, to me, this rivalry, I'm sorry, it supersedes virtually every other one in college football. It's
rivalries, yes, but not national championship.
It's the best rivalry in college football.
It is, still is. Without
but
question.
Again, I'm going to tell you, and I hope it doesn't happen, because I want you to know, as you and I have been together long enough. I'm a Big Ten guy, right? So I'm rooting for Ohio State tomorrow night. But if they don't win, I'm going to tell you again, we're going to start hearing all the stuff about the vitriol, questioning Ryan Day. Is he the guy? Should we keep him? And I just think that's a bunch of BS.
But didn't the Michigan fans say that about Harbaugh? Didn't they want him fired after going 0-5? Didn't he have to take a pay cut?
And I said the same thing. Michigan is ridiculous.
Right. So
Jim Harbaugh is one of the best damn football coaches in both the NFL and college football that we have. Yes or no?
Who, Harbaugh? Outstanding coach. Outstanding coach. Without question.
So, again, I try to tell all the Michigan people the same thing. You want to get rid of this guy, right? He averages, and during that time of starting his career and Michigan career off, well, again, do you remember he beat him 2 or 3 times when he was Michigan's starting quarterback?
Oh, absolutely.
So he understands all about what the damn rivalry is. Right. Okay? I mean, again, I don't feel the same way, to me, because it's always going to mean something.
Let me ask you this. What would you rather have? A win over Ohio State or a national championship if you're a Michigan fan?
Both.
No, you can only have one.
Both.
You can only have one.
Well, again, there's too many variables on that. Is that your only loss of the season?
What's your goal when you start a college football season? To win the national championship? Does it matter how you do it?
How come in the Woody Hayes, the number one thing up there is not about the national championship? You know that, right? What's it about?
Michael, that was 70 years ago.
It's still up there, Kenneth.
But it's not as important as winning the national championship. I'm sorry. It's not. Winning the national champion, being the champion of college football is more important than being the champion of the rivalry game. That's just the way I look at it.
Basically what you're saying is that Ohio State could keep losing to Michigan, and it's fine as long as they get in playoffs, because ain't no one team going to win national championship every year, Kenny.
Right.
Now, you know that, and I know that. Don't try to tell me that Ohio State or anybody else is going to roll off, we're going to win 4 or 5 natties in a row. No, you're
chance. No
No,
chance.
you're not.
Nobody's going to do that now with
That's what
NIL.
I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody's going to do that. So, again, if you keep losing to your rival, there'll be years you won't even get the chance to play for the national championship.
Probably.
Well, there
without
you go.
question. Yeah.
That's my point. I just
again,
still
my
put
goal, if I'm
into that game, I guess, than you do.
Times are changing, and where only 2 teams years ago got to play for the title, 12 get to play for it now. So that rivalry game, whether it's Alabama, Auburn, whether it's Texas and Oklahoma, whether it's Ohio State, Michigan, that does not mean as much today as it used to when only 2 teams would play for a title, or 2 teams really didn't even play. They were, crowned national champions. Well, guess what? 12 teams have a legitimate chance to play for a title now on the field when the regular season comes to an end. So for me, and I don't know if they'll admit this or not at Ohio State, but if I'm going to, set my goals, goal number 1 is to win the national championship. And along the way, I hope I beat Michigan and I hope I win the Big Ten title. If not, and I still reach my ultimate goal, which Ohio State may do this year, then the season was worth it.
Okay. Well, again, like I said, we're different about that because next time you're down in Columbus, you need to go back and look at what it all says and what are the I still, unless something's changed over the course of this football season, they've always had in there that priority number 1 was to beat the team up north.
Right. Times
So
are changing, Michael. I'd rather have a championship ring than gold pants.
But you're not going to win a championship every year, as you just said.
So when you get there, you better do it.
Again, how much vitriol, I don't care if it's by 1, and for the last time, I'm going to say, I'm rooting for Ohio State tomorrow night because I'm a Big Ten guy, right?
I rooted for Michigan last year.
Always have been, always will be. Well, then 99% of Ohio State fans don't. That's where we're different, but that's okay. That's a whole different story. But my point is that, again, if it doesn't go Ohio State's way tomorrow night, how much do you think you're going to get the reoccurrence of talking about Michigan as well as the game that we're talking about, the hypothetical?
There will be blowback
tomorrow night. I
without
guarantee
question.
you the Michigan vitriol is going to come out big time again.
Yeah, it will surface. But if they win, everybody's going to forget about that Michigan game, and they're going to celebrate a national championship, and they're going to buy hats and T-shirts and hoodies. There's going to be a parade in Columbus, and so, again, I'm trying to evolve with the game, and the game now says you don't have to win your rivalry game. You don't have to win your conference championship, and you can still win the national championship. So you've got to have more of an NFL mind, like a wild card team running the table, than you do what used to be the college football mind when only 2 or 4 teams had a chance to win it all. But hey, I'll say this. If we were on last year's platform, 4 teams playing for the title, Buckeyes wouldn't have had a chance because of the loss to Michigan. Then it would have hurt more. But because they've expanded to 12, and who knows how many they're going to go to in the future, you still get an opportunity to stub your toe once, maybe twice, and win a national championship. And so whether that's good or bad for the game, that's debatable. But the Buckeyes have taken advantage of the first year of 12. And here they are playing Notre Dame, who lost to Northern Illinois, by the way, out of the MAC, right? They don't have conference games as one of their games on their schedule. And yet here they are playing for a national championship. So if I would have told you before the season, hey, Michael, Notre Dame's going to lose to Northern Illinois, Ohio State's going to lose twice, and one of them's going to be to Michigan at home, would you have thought either of those teams had a chance to play for a national championship?
Well, like you said, with the way things have changed now, I'm not sure I know what all goes into putting teams into the playoffs now. I mean, I just don't. I'm not sure what the criterion is anymore.
Right.
And I'm kind of glad I don't have to put a vote out anymore like I once did.
Right. And I did that with the BCS era with the Harris Bowl. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I'm not sure. But again, Rooting for Ohio State tomorrow night because I'm a
Who
Big
do you
Ten
like?
guy. I hope they win the football game, but I know if the chance that they don't win the national championship, I guarantee you a whole bunch of Buckeye Nation, as you guys call it, is going to be coming out and they'll bring up another loss to Michigan. I guarantee you that'll happen.
Who do you like tomorrow night?
Ohio State.
What ballpark? By how much? I'm here. We had Mike Doss on the show. We had Matt Wilhelm on the show, on the Kenny and JT show on WHBC. And we had, who else? We had one more Buckeye on the show. Chris Beanie Wells. They're all, and it scared me a little bit, they're all very confident. They think Ohio State can blow out Notre Dame. And I said, do I need to remind you about 0-2? You were 13.5-point underdogs. Let's not get too carried away. But I see why they think that. But I'm trying to be a little bit more, realistic about it. So what ballpark do you see the score falling under tomorrow night?
7-point game.
Okay.
7, maybe 10. But I'm going to tell you what. I'll say this again, and I'm not one of the guys that looks to crucify Ryan Day. But if you're asking me which head coach I'd rather have tomorrow night, give me Marcus Freeman.
Oh, you can have him. You can
All
have
day
him and
long.
let him try and play defense with 10 guys on the field on 2 consecutive
Okay.
plays the last
right.
time they played Ohio State. I'm not a big Marcus Freeman guy. Hey, he's done a great job getting them there. Got a raise, got a contract extension. His wife's from Massillon in Stark County, our neck of the woods where we do our shows and everything. So I'm happy for the family and everything. But I'm not the biggest Ryan Day fan in the world. But if I'm picking between Ryan Day and his staff in this one versus Freeman and his staff, not a big edge, but I'll give a slight edge to Ryan Day and his staff, having played in a national championship game already, in his tenure, and hopefully learned from that. And the 2 losses this year, this is what I like about what Ryan Day's done this year. Oregon, the defense was shit, was terrible, awful. Since then, they've been lights out. They learned from the loss at Oregon. Offense was shit at home against Michigan. Since then, they've been lights out. They've been very good. So that shows me that the coaches have learned from their mistakes and have moved the team forward. So I give a slight edge in the coaching to Ryan Day and his staff in this one on Monday night. I've got a 28-13 Ohio State.
Well, that's fine. I got it 7 to 10 point Ohio State win, and I'll take Marcus Freeman as my head coach over Ryan Day in just about every big game situation you want to give me. So we'll see how that plays out.
He's 0-2 head-to-head against Ryan Day so far, right? This will be the 3rd time they've met with Marcus Freeman as the head coach. Buckeyes beat him handily at home, went to South Bend and beat him last year with 1 second left, which was a very close game. But again, I brought up the 2 plays in a row where Notre Dame only had 10 guys on the field on defense in back-to-back plays. So
yeah, well, that's on the head coach.
Yeah. So
you tell me all you want about coordinators and what have you, but the bottom line, those kind of things are on the head coach.
And so we'll see how it plays out. Riley Leonard versus Will Howard. How about this? We've got a guy transferring from Duke basketball school and a guy transferring from Kansas State. I don't know what they are. And they're the 2 quarterbacks in the transfer portal that are going to help determine who wins the national championship at Notre Dame and Ohio State. I never thought I'd say that.
Well, no, and I agree with you there. I'm not I don't think, you know what? I hope I'm wrong because I'm all about players and young guys getting an opportunity, but I don't see either one of them making any kind of impact at all at the next level.
I'm with you 100% on that, Michael. Absolutely. I'll just say this. Keys to the game for Ohio State. Don't take Notre Dame lightly. Will Howard must play mistake-free football. Break even on special teams. Special teams edge goes to Notre Dame, and expect Marcus Freeman with some trickeration on field goals or fake punts in this game because they're the underdog. They've got to lay it all out there. So the Buckeyes got to be careful because I'm not confident in their special teams. Stupid penalties. Can't have that like they did against Texas, right? Almost cost them, the Buckeyes. And the big-time players have to step up like they did last game. Captain Jack Sawyer with the scoop and score, huge. Trevion Henderson to the house from 75 yards. Jeremiah Smith has to play better. So that's for Ohio State. If they're going to win, don't take them lightly. Don't turn it over. Play good football, you win. If you're Notre Dame, I think you got to jump on them early, get ahead. Score touchdowns, not field goals in the red zone if you're Notre Dame, and force Ohio State, Michael, to what? Kick field goals and not score touchdowns in the red zone. Don't give up the big play defensively if you're Notre Dame. Ohio State's explosive. Make them earn it, because even if they score, you shorten the game, and that's what you want to do, I think, if you're Notre Dame. And then somebody on offense has to have a big game, whether it's Leonard, whether it's Love, whether it's Greathouse. Somebody's got to come up big for Notre Dame to give them a chance. And like I said, you're the underdog. Leave it all out there, man. Throw the kitchen sink, the microwave, the garbage disposal, everything you got at them, and hope it's a close game in the fourth quarter. I think that's how Notre Dame has a chance.
Yeah, I'll go 27-20 Ohio. What'd you say? I'm going 27-20 Ohio State.
All right, I've got a 28-13 Ohio State as well. So we'll see how it plays out. And kickoff again is 7:30, and you can listen to it if you're driving around, by the way, on News Talk 1480 WHBC in the Canton area. All right, let's do this. Let's get a break in, Michael. When we come back, we mentioned these games earlier, but let's recap the NFL playoffs and preview the AFC Championship, Bills Chiefs, and the NFC Championship, I almost said Redskins, and I just did, Commanders and Eagles. And we'll break all that down for you when the RnR podcast continues right after this.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tyvis Powell.
And we are your hosts of the Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tyvis, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we continue with the Reghi Roda podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And Michael, we're down to 4 teams in the National Football League, because here's what happened this weekend in the NFL. The Bills beat the Ravens 27-25 at home. Bills undefeated at home, but that's their last home game because they have to go on the road now to Kansas City after the Chiefs beat the Texans 23-14. So that's the AFC results from this week. The NFC results, the Eagles took care of the Rams 28-22, and Philly will now host because the Lions lost at home to the Commanders 45-31. So your AFC title game, Bills at Chiefs. The NFC title game, Commanders at Eagles. Just your thoughts on what went down, and then we'll look ahead to the title games.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, just an abhorrent disaster from the Detroit Lions in that loss to the Washington Redskins. See, I did what you said.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm gonna follow your lead. The Washington Commanders, and to me, unacceptable there for them. Philly at home, I think, used the home field and just did just enough. And I think the weather gave them the help, too. Matthew Stafford, I believe, threw for 330 yards against their defense today in bad weather, but they couldn't run the ball. And Kyron Williams, huge fumble that I think turned the running back for the Rams. huge fumble that turned that football game around. And Philly won that. So, Kenny, I mean, on the NFC side of things, you know, I like Philadelphia to beat the Commanders, although that's a hell of a story now. This Jaden Daniels kid, he's terrific. He is terrific, and I think he's going to cause a lot of problems for their NFC and entire National Football League opponents for years to come. They are on the upswing, that football team. I mean, Daniels has done a terrific job for a 22-year-old kid that came in. And were they not 4-12 a year ago? Do I have that right? Something like that?
To draft him that high, they had to be somewhere in that neighborhood, right?
Yeah. Well, the kid's got it, man. I really have become a big admirer of him early on, and like I said, he's got everything you need, I think, to be a winning championship quarterback in the NFL. So, going to be tough for them. I do think they'll keep it close, but I'll go Philly there in that NFC championship game. And in the AFC championship game, and again, I mean, you know, the Baltimore Ravens, I know they were on the road today, but they sure didn't bring their A game. And give Buffalo a little credit for that, you know, of course. I think anytime you want to say things didn't go well, and especially at this time of year, you got to give the opponent and the team that won a little bit of something that, but you know, I tell you, you know, Lamar Jackson and Baltimore did not get it done today at all. And so in that AFC championship game, Ken, I don't know, man, as much as I want to say that there's a chance for Buffalo, it's hard for me to go against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid at home in Kansas City. So I'm going to take should be a tight football game. And I know Kansas City has certainly won a lot of those, right, this year. They sure haven't been blowing people out. But here they are again, playing at home with a chance to win and go to the Super Bowl. So, you know, I'm a real big admirer of Andy Reid and how he coaches his football team. So I'll take Philly at home. Or excuse me, we already said that. I'll take Kansas City to win and get to the Super Bowl again.
All right, Michael, here's what I pointed out earlier, and I'll reiterate. Ravens, a loser by 2, -3 in the turnover category.
Yeah.
Lions, a loser by 14, -5 in the turnover category. Rams, a loser by 6, -2 in the turnover category. Texans and Chiefs were even. Neither team had a turnover, but the Texans allowed C.J. Stroud to be sacked 8 or 9 times in that game, and that kind of adds up to a turnover or 2 because you're punting the ball away. So somehow, some way, Kansas City finds a way, right, Michael? Sometimes it ain't pretty. Sometimes they get a little help from the officials. Other times they just go out and make plays on offense, defense, or special teams. But it's the most complete team, I think, in the NFL. I picked them before the season to start the three-peat, to be the first team ever, because in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. Woo! And in order to do that, you got to play better than Patrick Mahomes, and nobody's been able to do that when it matters most. Having said that, that defense is underrated, Michael. Kansas City's defense.
Oh, very good.
I'll take them in a clutch big game over any defense in the NFL right now. So the fact that they've got home field advantage there, and, you know, Buffalo and KC, I thought were the two best teams, you know, coming into the playoffs, and they're going to meet to decide who goes to the Super Bowl. So I'm going with Kansas City until somebody beats Patrick Mahomes. I think it'll be a one-score game, whether that's 3 or 7. I think it'll be close. Whereas I think Philadelphia, Washington could be a high-scoring game, depending on the weather now in Philly, as we saw that play into today's game. But I like Philly as well. So I think we're going to see Philly and Kansas City playing for the Super Bowl. I think they're the two best all-around teams left in the Final Four.
Yep, I'm in agreement with you there. And I think that'll be, you know, should be, if that's the way this plays out in a couple of weeks, that should be a hell of a Super Bowl matchup again. And, you know, because of Andy Reid on the Kansas City sideline, and with all that big game championship feel that he has about him. Right now, Kenny, as we said, we're a couple weeks away. Got to win.
Yep.
Got to win first, one more. But I would think that Kansas City is going to be tough to beat to potentially win another NFL Super Bowl championship.
I'm looking at the lines coming out of Vegas. We mentioned that Philly's a 5 favorite and KC's a 1.5 favorite. The money lines on this, minus 240 for Philadelphia and minus 120 for Kansas City. So the big shots in Vegas think that Buffalo Kansas City game's a 1-possession field goal game, could come down to the wire where they feel a little more confident, obviously, with Philadelphia. Over under Philadelphia 47.5, Kansas City 48.5. And this is what I've learned with the gambling side of things. Guys have told me, look at the weather, because you might be able to get higher over-unders right now if the weather's going to get nasty, later in the week. So possibly jump on the over-unders if they're high now and take the under if you hear or you see that it's going to be nasty weather. Now, you better have a good weatherman that can forecast the weather right, which Betsy Kling cost us a World Series championship maybe in Game 7 by going to that rain delay. So you better have somebody better than Betsy. Allegedly, I'll throw that in there. You better have somebody better than her if you're going to put some money down on things. But just a little tip there that I've learned from some of the people who've done this for a while. If you're trying to not worry about who wins or loses, Michael, but just what the final point total is.
Well, yeah, Lynn, like you are intimating, though, while I do think that that Philadelphia will win that NFC championship game, but I'm telling you, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Jaden Daniels and this Washington Commanders squad, Kenny, takes it into a last couple of possession game on the line in the fourth quarter. So from the money perspective, I would take the Washington Commanders and those 5.5 points. I'll take the Commanders and the 5.5. Yeah.
So here's the thing, Michael. Washington's got nothing to lose. They're not supposed to be their first NFC championship game since 1991 when Joe Gibbs was the coach.
How about
and they got a rookie quarterback. So he's going, hey, here's the mindset. You go out there and win, you shock the world, right? You go out there and lose, you weren't supposed to be there anyways. You got great experience for the rest of your career. So, they got to play free and easy. They're the underdogs, like Notre Dame's the underdog in the national championship game. So if I'm both of those teams, I'm going out there, little trickeration, leaving it all out there and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, it's a great season for Washington. And it was a great season for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame if they get to the title game and come up a little short. So go play with no nerves, no pressure, and see what happens if you're those teams.
And it wouldn't surprise me in the least. Like I said, I fully expect, although I just picked Philadelphia to win, I fully expect that the Washington Commanders, led by that young swashbuckling QB that last night just lit up the Detroit Lions, I expect them to be there with a chance to win, Ken, in the fourth quarter. So, we'll see if that plays out. And if they did win the football game and go win another road game and get to the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked. I think that highly of what I've seen from them and what that football team is doing. I mean, they're fun and they're impressive. And I think we alluded to it. I don't think Jaden Daniels, he's just out having fun, Kenny.
Yeah.
He's just playing, man. He's having fun. It's like he grew up in Louisiana, didn't he? I think it's, like him playing on the playgrounds, man, back when he was a young teenager and a kid. And that's how to me he plays.
I love watching him. And you talk about trying to turn a franchise around, and we'll end on this, Michael. They hit it in the draft by selecting him. That's what the Browns need to do. They need to find that kind of a guy, whether it's Shedeur Sanders, whether it's Cam Ward, depending on who you like. I'm not ready to make my prediction on who I would take or who I like better. I'm leaning towards Cam Ward. That's just me, but I'm going to do some more research and talk to my guys at R-Lads and some other people, around football. But that's what you need to do, right? When you're 3-14, picking second in the draft, and, they're saying the top 2 picks are going to be quarterbacks, whether they're deserving or not. Well, if you have one of those top 2 picks, you better get the right one. And Washington did that with Jaden Daniels.
Hit a home run. Hit a grand slam home run.
Yep.
And I think they're going to be a factor and a force for years to come. And so we'll see. And again, I'm going to stay with Philly, but I expect them to keep it very, very close. And Ken, if Daniels and those kids have a chance to win in the fourth quarter, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah. And we'll see how it plays out. So there you go. National championship game. Michael and I both like OSU by at least 7. And for the AFC and NFC championship games next weekend, Michael and I like KC and Philly to meet in the Super Bowl, but expect good games in both of those contests. And if you're Roger Goodell, you're loving the matchups because you got Big City Philly, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Taylor Swift from Kansas City. You got Josh Allen and the Bills Mafia, and you got the Heisman Trophy second overall pick, Rookie of the Year playing. That's must-see TV for NFL fans everywhere.
NFL is loving the way they've got things lined up. That's for sure. No question about it. I think we're going to have a lot of fun in checking out these conference championship games to lead into the Super Bowl, without question.
All right, Reg, we'll do this again in about a week, and we'll see who won the national title game and see who is playing in the Super Bowl. And we'll break it all down for all of our loyal listeners out there. Thank you to all of them for staying put with us, following us over the years. Thank you for subscribing to our podcast there on the Press Play Podcast Network. And you can find us anywhere podcasts are uploaded, whether that's Apple, Spotify. You just type in Reghi and Roda and you can listen to us, and we'll continue to bring these to you. Right, Michael?
Absolutely. That's the way to do it. And we appreciate all of you that are a part of the RnR podcast. And Kenny, I look forward to the next time we get together, man. And we'll be chopping up the Ohio State. Hopefully they're securing the national championship and these 2 NFL playoff games, conference championship games, right? So this is this time of year where football titles are decided, and it's a hell of a lot of fun, man. So I look forward to the next time we get together.
Sounds great, Reg, and thanks again to our producer Ty Cordts for making sure all of you are able to find us here on the Reghi and Roda podcast.